Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Happy Friday to you. It is a great, great day. You know why? Because King Jesus made this day. And King Jesus is sitting on his throne, reigning over heaven and earth. And he is doing stuff in this world right now. Not just doing stuff in your heart, not just meeting you in your quiet time. He is accomplishing things. He is crushing his enemies. He is building his kingdom. He is calling people out of the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. He is blessing our socks off. Take a moment and just ponder all the amazing, wonderful gifts he has given you and is currently giving you now. And rejoice and be glad and give thanks and celebrate, and don't let your mind go to what you don't have and to all the things that are disappointing and discouraging. Put your mind on the things that are good, up where Jesus is, the things above. That doesn't mean we're just supposed to sit and ponder the abstract attributes of Jesus. That means the one who is reigning and who is calling us to righteousness, obedience, and who's doing all these things. We're supposed to think on him in this life. Like as we're to live life, recognizing all that the Lord Jesus is doing. So rejoice, be glad, take a moment today and give thanks. So along those lines, it's Freeform Friday, and we're going to talk about some things that I see, at least, that the Lord is doing, and you'll probably see some of this as well. The first is, have you seen Grok? How many of you who are on here right now don't have any idea what Grok is? It's Grok, and it is the new AI that XAI has just made public. I'm under the impression that it is free for everybody at the moment. So you can go to grok.com, grok.com, and you will see a prompt like this one. Mike says no idea. Kathy doesn't. Okay, so good. So you'll see a prompt like this one, and it will help you gather information. So in a nutshell, Grok is like Chat GPT or Gemini or Auto Copilot. Is that what the Microsoft one is? I forget, but all these helps. Aaron says, watching this on X, just downloaded the Grok app yesterday, already using it for a ton of stuff. Yeah, if you start on this, you're just never going to use. I don't think I'll ever use Google search again. I don't think I'll ever use Wikipedia again. So in a nutshell, this artificial intelligence, this Grok, has scanned just about everything in written and digital form in the world. So its knowledge base is largely everything published. And it also scans X, formerly Twitter, for all the stuff going on in current events and social media. And it's designed to think. Now, for some, my son says, you and AI? Is that, what does that mean? Is that, does he think I spend too much time on AI? So I have a friend whose career is in IT. In fact, he's probably listening now or will listen to this later, so he knows I'm talking about him. And he told me yesterday, so Grok 3 that's the big improvement that just came out this week. And Grok 3, he said, in his IT company, there's been a problem they have been trying to solve for 8 months. and they entered the problem into Grok and interacted with it a little bit, and he said they had come up with a solution, but it was not a perfect solution. Grok solved the problem for them in moments. And this kind of thing is always going to happen again and again. So I would encourage you, play with it a little bit and see how much it can improve your life. I'm going to pull it up here for you, for those that don't have any exposure to this. And I'm going to enter in a prompt here. And what I'd love to do is, if you have some interesting questions for it, put it here in the chat, and I'll pop it in and see what Grok has to say. So relevant to our discussion on Revelation, here's a prompt. List the 5 strongest arguments that Revelation was written before 70 AD. List them in bullet points, 1 sentence each. Okay? And I realize that's fairly small. I don't think I can make it any bigger, so I hope you can at least follow along. But I'll read it to you. So I hit the prompt, and let me pull this down. Oh, there we go. I don't need to pull it down. I just need to. Okay, so here it is in bullet points. Here are the 5 strong arguments. The book of Revelation was written before 70 AD, presented as concise bullet points. First one, the text mentions the Jerusalem temple as still standing, Revelation 11, 1 and 2, which aligns with a pre-70 AD date before its destruction by the Romans. Second, early church fathers like Irenaeus are often misinterpreted. His statement about John being seen in the late 90s AD may refer to John's lifespan, not the writing of Revelation. Isn't that interesting? Irenaeus is, again, like it says, one of those church fathers that is often used to say John lived into his 90s. Interesting. Next one, 7 churches addressed in Revelation 2-3 reflect conditions and struggles consistent with the mid-60s AD, not the later Domitianic period. Next one, the number of the beast, 666, in Revelation 13:18 is widely linked to Nero Caesar, whose name in Hebrew gematria fits this number, suggesting a context during or shortly after his reign, which was 54 to 68 AD. Next one, the urgency and immediacy of the prophecies. Example, the time is near in Revelation 1:3. Suit the tumultuous events leading up to the Jewish-Roman War better than the later one. All right, so let's say you we're just exploring this, and you said, as a follow-up here, tell me more about the Irenaeus misinterpretation. Okay, so tell me more about the Irenaeus misinterpretation. The argument about Irenaeus and the potential misinterpretation of his statement hinges on a passage from his work Against Heresies, written about 180 AD. Irenaeus, an early church father, is often cited by scholars who argue for a late date. The key sentence in question states, quote, "We will not, however, incur the risk of pronouncing positively as to the name of Antichrist, for if it were necessary that his name should be distinctly revealed in this present time, it would have been announced, ... Here's the crux. Many scholars take that was seen to mean, so I skipped the part that, okay, so it would have been announced by him who beheld the apocalyptic vision, for that was seen no very long time since, but almost an hour day toward the end of Domitian's reign. So now Grok is analyzing, saying many scholars take, quote, that was seen to mean the vision of Revelation itself. This would place the book's composition around 95. Advocates for an earlier date contend that Irenaeus' statement is ambiguous and likely refers to John himself being seen. Okay, so regardless of whether or not it's accurate, Grok has access to all of these scholars, and all these books have been published forever, and can quickly formulate an argument. Now let's say I want to say, now give the 5 strongest post-70 AD arguments, also in bullet form. And now it's going to give 5 strong arguments. Irenaeus, a reliable early church father. right? And the persecution aligns closely with Domitian's reign, and the seven churches show signs of spiritual decline and establishment, yada, yada, yada. So the whole point here is Grok is designed to be objective. Now, the fact that human beings are programming this means it's not going to be entirely objective, but it's designed to be objective. And so if you tell it, give me this argument without counter arguments, it'll do that. And then you can go back and get the other. So for this kind of study, it's fascinating. And then you can ask it more questions. And the voice mode is apparently already out for some. I haven't got it yet, but you can talk to it just like ChatGPT. And so what I'm doing here by typing, you can actually do just by talking. And that's due out, I think, next week for most people. So anyway, yeah, okay. So Sana, that's exactly what I did. That's funny. Christian says Grok saves so much time compared to Google. Yeah, it's amazing. Any prompts you want me to look at real quick about anything, not just Revelation, whatever, but just anything to show you kind of the power here. Earlier this morning, my wife, who was with my daughter in Austin, Texas, as my ASL daughter is hoping to get another certification. She had a test this morning to get the next level of certification. And anyway, so my wife woke up in their Airbnb, and one of her thumbs was swollen and sore and itchy. So I just entered into Grok. Hey, this happened. What are the possible explanations? And it gave me a nice description of suggested remedies and what could be the cause. It qualifies, says I'm not a doctor. You should consult a physician, but based on the data, here's likely what it is and that kind of thing. And then I said, okay, so is this more likely like a contact allergy or an insect bite or whatever? And it gave me some signs to look at to determine which is the case, which is just, fascinating. Aaron says, I used Grok this morning to develop an outline of for against positions on the veracity of Scripture and was impressed at its initial response. Very little tweaking required. Isn't that cool? I've done that quite a bit as well, just on questions that I've already formed opinions on to sort of test its objectivity. And I've been very impressed that it really strives to be objective. Now, if I ask it like I did here for a persuasive analysis of one position, it'll give it to me. But if I just ask a generic question, I've asked it questions about textual criticism, different books that I've read. By the way, it's read all the books. In fact, let me see if this will work. Give me a summary of my book, Exalted. See if it knows who I am. It says it does. Let's see what its summary is. Oh, it thinks I'm asking about Revelation, I guess. So I'm going to go back to the main page here. Summarize Doug Gooden's book, Exalted. Oh, missed a typo. See what it does with the typo. Look at this. So it says so you see my typo here? Let me make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so I transposed the T and the L, so it says Exatled, and its response is, I assume you meant Exalted by Douglas Gooden. Here's a summary based on available information. Oh, okay. So maybe it doesn't. Interesting. So this stuff is on the available information, but it apparently it can't get into. Can you read the book? All right, you see what happened there? So that information is all stuff that's public, but not from the contents of the book. This is on the cover and the Amazon, whatever. I don't have the ability to physically read a book Okay, so only if they're publicly available. That's good because I was wondering about like um, uh, copyright issues and that kind of thing. So very interesting. All right, so I hadn't done that before. Dale says, did the early church fathers say Jesus' ministry was at year 1? Did the early church fathers say Jesus' ministry was at year 1? I'm going to phrase it the way you did because it'd be interesting to see how it interprets that question, huh? The early church fathers did not universally agree that Jesus' ministry lasted 1 year, but some did propose. Now, is that what you meant, Dale, or did you mean 1 AD? The length of Jesus' ministry is not explicitly stated in the New Testament. Estimates typically range from 1 year to 3 years, depending on scholars and early writers, how they reconcile. And then key points. 1 year ministry, quotes Clement of Alexander. Longer ministry, 2 to 3 years, quotes Irenaeus. Lack of consensus. The early church fathers didn't have a unified stance. So interesting. Aaron says, has it actually reviewed the text of published books? I haven't explored that much. Yeah, apparently not, at least not mine. But I have asked it to summarize interesting. I have asked it to summarize some other books. Let me try it this way. Summarize the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective. Is it people? Okay, so that's interesting. So I wonder if it does, for those of you, if you've read Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it lists the 7 here. So I wonder if this is because there's so much other available information out there that it doesn't have to actually analyze the book. I don't know. It's an interesting question. Leafcat says the more it is used, the more informed it would become. Exactly, because it's always learning. So everything that you input and so on is learning from all that. So anyway, the point is, this is an amazing tool, and on most things in life, I'm a layman, novice kind of thing on theology, but history, biblical history, that kind of thing. I have pretty good knowledge. Music, I have pretty good knowledge. So I've, again, dug into some pretty specific questions on those things and gotten great answers. And anything that's public domain, anything that's been published for a long time, like I knew there's a guy, R.H. Charles, who has published and written a commentary on First Enoch. We've been talking about the Apocrypha some in the Revelation series. And I knew he had written a commentary on Revelation. And I also knew he was sort of, he approached, he was a little more, I don't know, liberal is not quite the right word, but his view of the authorship is different. Anyway, so I asked Grok to summarize his position on some chapters, or what's his argument for John, the author, not being the Apostle John, but another John, because that's his view, and just gives me a very good, succinct explanation of those things, and I can ask it to expand on the issue if I want to. So that's just, that's the area that I have some expertise in. Whatever your expertise is, and it's going to have access to all the best materials and just life in general, asking it ideas for date night, for new music to listen to, for recipes, just about anything. What's the best way to grill steaks or whatever. Grok, I think, is going to become for me at least, the go-to for everything. And the voice mode, if you've used ChatGPT at all, you know you can talk back and forth to it like you're talking to a person. It's pretty amazing. So anyway, let me shift gears now a little bit to I post this on my X account. I reposted actually something that Elon Musk had posted. There's a guy that I was not familiar with until that video. Maybe some of you already know about him. Victor David Hansen. Elon posted this quick video, and I watched it, and I thought, what a great articulation of what we have seen politically recently. And this ties into a little bit into the Grok technology, but especially where I want to finish up today. I would encourage you to watch it. So if you're on X, go to my or Elon's, or just look up Victor David Hansen, and I'm sure his video will pop up. And he's basically succinctly describing how some folks are calling what's going on now with Trump and his administration as a revolution. And he says, no, actually, it's a counter-revolution. The revolution started really with Obama and had a little break, and then really was on steroids with Biden. And he lays out some things that are easier for us to, look back on in retrospect that maybe we got caught up in. I mean, there were people saying this, but their voices were often quieted. And some of the things he lists is that this is more like the Robespierre brothers during the French Revolution. And again, that was not something I was familiar with. So I looked up on Grok and explained it wonderfully. In fact, I entered Victor David Hansen in a video compares the administrations going back to the beginning of the Obama administration through Biden as similar to the Robespierre desires during the French Revolution, something like that. So explain that to me. And Grok laid out a fantastic summary of what the French Revolution element was, and then how someone might compare. And it was again, very objective. It wasn't taking the side as though it was true. It was simply articulating, if someone were going to make this argument, this is how they would do it. Here are the similarities that someone might see. So again, for me, I didn't know anything about the Robespierre, or at least not. I'd heard a little bit, but I didn't know it well enough. French Revolution is not a strength of mine, and Grok gave me a fantastic summary, so I could then watch the video again and say, oh, that's what he's getting at. So here's some of the things that he said that we saw in the last 16 years-ish. Things like tearing down the statues, trying to eradicate and rewrite history, the 1619 verbiage, trying to get away from 1776, 70% of the election day. So according to this little video, prior to this, sorry, let me back up. I may have forgotten the element. His argument is, starting with Obama, that was the revolution. That was revolting against constitutional America. That was the revolution. You see the point? Like we're moving ahead, and yes, there were differences and there were variances. And you look back at history and think, I wish, I think the government laid the groundwork for some of this, and there was push against some of this, push toward abandoning the Constitution. But it really took hold starting with Obama, and that's the revolution. And if you've studied cultural Marxism, it all fits. They've been working at this for a long time, but it really came out in significant ways starting with Obama. That's the revolution, and that Trump is the counter-revolution, trying to put down that revolution and get back to basics, get back to the Constitution, limited government, freedom, those kind of things, which I think is a very accurate description of what it appears that's happened to me. So these things like tearing down statues, the goal is to undo our cultural bearings. If we value highly our past, our tradition going back to the founding fathers and so on, not whitewashing the wickedness. I mean, if you've followed me very long, I look back at slavery and think that was abominable. But we're not there, and we've, by God's grace, moved past that. And everybody now would look back and say it was abominable. So tearing down the statues and changing the beginning of America to 1619, getting away from in-person elections on election day so that now 70% are mail-in and early ballot, early voting, as opposed to prior to Obama, it was 70% election day kind of thing. Gender, destroying male and female, all of that. Trying to add states so they get more votes, trying to change the Senate so it's more like the House. It's basically, the Constitution has been so strong, and the pro-freedom, pro-Constitution message has been such a part of our DNA as Americans that the revolutionaries realized they have to destroy all the foundations. And again, this goes back to the Marxism, goes back to the Frankfurt School and Marcuse in the 60s and all of that. You can use Grok to dive into all those things. It's been if you know the story when the Berlin Wall fell, and of course we in the West and here, especially in America, we're so excited. We defeated communism. The communists were saying, no, actually, we won. Because they knew they had made inroads into our institutions, and that it was just a matter of time before they caused America to be defeated from the inside out. And that's exactly what we've seen. They got into what they call the four robes, places like our churches and the courts and universities and Congress, and destroyed the foundations of constitutional law and basic biology, male and female. And again, I'm not even talking from a Christian perspective. Of course, these things are all good from a Christian perspective because that's what the founders were doing, partly at least. Anyway, all that to say, we're now seeing a counter-revolution trying to overthrow the revolutionaries and get back to constitutional law and what the founding fathers established, and first principles of two sexes, male and female, and pushing more things back to the states where they should be, and that kind of thing. And I think it's a great analysis. And I would encourage you to watch it and then look back at where we've come and what we're trying to do now. And you don't have to be pro-Trump, but at least try to be objective in what he and his administration are trying to do. And at least, in my opinion, it is getting back to the things that made this nation a nation of freedom and prosperity and productivity, which are all good things as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, I think it's worth your time to look at that. And again, use Grok to help you navigate some of those things and ask those questions. Which leads me to the last thing for today. We need to be about doing stuff, I think. I know I talk about this all the time. Maybe Sonna's son will recognize this too. But if you think back to the original jobs given to humanity, when God first made the world and created human beings, he gave us 2 jobs. Number 1, make more humans. Right? Make more humans. Get married, have children. That's why we should have a high view of marriage and family and parenting, and realize, another part of what the revolution was trying to do is destroy that And so you've got to destroy manhood and male headship. And you've got to destroy womanhood. And that's what feminism has done. And we got to get back to those basic things of the family for the means of reproduction and filling the earth. Jesus didn't show up and change that and say, never mind about the whole family thing. The other thing he said was, yep, you got it, Sana. Rule the earth. Take dominion over this world. And again, Jesus did not appear and say, never mind about that. What I want is for you all to go to church on Sundays and have your little quiet times, and then, whatever else you do doesn't really matter, but don't be too aggressive in productivity and building wealth and things, because that means you're, probably greedy and sinning. He didn't say that. Yes, there's warnings about greed, but he told us take dominion, and the Lord Jesus didn't change that. And one of the dangers of these great tools like our social media and internet and so on is that we become so wrapped up in consuming that we're not producing. We need to be doers. We need to be producers. We need to take dominion. And that's a big, that involves everything. There are so many different things. It's not just your career or your job. It's learning and then doing. And we have access now to more learning than ever. Now, learning, of course, is consuming, but it's consuming with a purpose to then employ that learning. And I'm not one of those guys that's opposed to, watching movies or TV shows or, listening to music and stuff for recreation, whatever. I do that. I don't see that's a problem, but it's so easy to get caught up in that and spend so much time doing that. You're not producing anything. And we are called to be doers. And a big part of what has happened culturally in the last couple of generations or so, actually going back to the 1920s, I would say, it's Freud had a lot to do with this, and that spilled over into all of our therapy and counseling and sort of the Gospel Coalition Christianity and the whole Big Eva, as it's called, all these major ministries of Christianity. They're so much about a therapy approach, that introspection and look at all that you don't have. Look how hard life is. Look at all the relationships that have gone wrong and how you've been abused and mistreated and all of this. And for the small percentage of people who have truly been abused, it really minimizes what they've been through. And the idea is, we're broken people. You realize the Bible never calls us broken. That's a therapy word. That's a Freud word. I don't use it. We should get away from it. A broken world, that carries with it a connotation that I think is contrary to the scripture. But that's for another time. For our partners, you can watch the counseling course if you want to get my full spiel on all that. The point is, we have been told recently that we're all broken, we're all injured, we're all wounded. It's a constant message of discouragement. And I'm convinced that's part of the devil's psyop that keeps us from walking in joy and productivity and creativity and enjoying all the blessings of life and pursuing things that matter. Because we are told constantly we are weak and broken and we're just hanging on until we can go be with Jesus. I think all of that is a lie. And we are to be productive. And I'm using that word very broadly. But we're to take dominion. We're to pursue life and enjoy it and create. And we are in a time unlike any time in all of human history. The tools that we have and the ability to learn things, it's never been like this. And I just want to challenge you, encourage you, give this thought and get after it. Life is to be lived. The kingdom, again, is not some sentimental thing. It's not sitting pondering abstract attributes of God. It's living life obediently and righteously. He showed you, oh man, what is good, right? Do what is right, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. That's life. Walk is life. Walk humbly. Do the things that He's called us to do. So, we as Christians need to take advantage of all that's happening in the West, here in the U.S. especially, the freedom that is being recovered, the revolution that's being stamped out with the counter-revolution, and we need to speak up about the two sexes and only two sexes. And did you hear J.D. Vance yesterday? I mean, he is unashamed to talk about Christ and death and resurrection and living to serve God. That's our vice president. How can we be quiet and embarrassed and afraid? Oh no, they're going to think I'm some religious whatever. No, set all that aside and get after life and enjoy all that we have. Sana says, I wonder if it's less biased than some of the other search engines. Yeah, I talking about Grok. It is intended to be that. It is intended to be that. And some of you may have mentioned this. I know others have talked about it. Oh yeah, someone asked us already, Aaron, I think. If you dive in with God questions. In fact, I asked it, this is even Grok 2. I asked it, I forget the prompt about defending the existence of God, and it was actually quite good. Mike says the Mayflower didn't sail for no reason. Yeah, indeed. Some of you still live in Europe. Yeah, well, if America keeps going the direction it's going, I think that will necessarily spill over to other nations, including the European nations, which would be great. Love covers a multitude of sins, indeed. Nathan, not me. Sorry, I must have missed it when that came in. Be doers of the word, not hearers. Yep. It's okay, Son. I like it. All right, well, I'm going to leave it there. Dive into Grok. It probably cost you because when it stops being free, you'll want to buy it or purchase it. But I mean, I think Elon saved Western civilization when he bought Twitter. So I'm willing to pay him, even though he's the wealthiest man in the world. I'm willing to pay him. So that's my 2 cents. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back in Revelation on Monday. Grace and peace to you.